Hello to my audience and all of those who are watching perhaps for the first time, watching Talk About It Tuesday. Welcome. The last time I had Talk About It Tuesday was actually in June of 2022. I've been on a break from this platform, but I'm excited to be bringing it back. To have this conversation with my dear friend, Cristina Bagozzi, and the founder of EMMOTIV. Cristina, I'm going to bring you on in just a minute. I see your request. Before I bring you on, I want to share just a couple of things. First of all, thank you all for joining. For those of you who are in the Brooklyn, New York City area, you have a chance to join the Unlock Lab in February, where I hold space for you on February 3rd. And you can check out my link in bio if you want to join me there. And also for those of you who are new, I'm a leadership and career coach, and I help with all things transformation to help people and organizations get out of their own way. And one of the reasons I do this Talk About It Tuesday platform is because I bring on amazing guests that have incredible stories that can help us in our journey of living our biggest life. And Cristina is absolutely no exception to that. I'm really excited to talk to you today about the beauty of emotion. So with no further ado, I'm gonna bring you on. Yes, just waiting for the technology piece to come into play. Hello.
Hello, Tasca. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you're here. Pardon me for my little, it's been a while, right? Like I haven't been on Talk About It Tuesday since June. And I'm so excited to break the silence with you and this conversation.
I am so thrilled to be here and so excited that this is my first ever IG Live. So I made it work. I know I just have to press a button, but that celebrating small steps is part of the entrepreneurship journey, so I'll take it.
Yeah, and you know what? Look, I actually love that. I've had a lot of guests where it's their first time, and I love it because, you know, the more that people share their stories, they do so in different environments and scenarios, like the easier it becomes.
That's right.
And you definitely have some stories that the world needs to hear. So, you know, I'm so grateful for you to take the time out to do this. Like, I know that you're insanely busy. You're a mom, a wife, you are a solo entrepreneur, and just in the beginning stages of that. And so I can only imagine the whirlwind that you're in. So thank you for taking some time to talk to folks about such an important topic around emotions.
Of course. I mean, thank you so much for opening up the platform. And I'm just so thrilled because I've known you for so many years, and you're one of the women in my life that I just admire so deeply and everything that you've accomplished. So I'm just so happy. Of course, I'm so happy to be here. This is such a nice reprieve from all the other stuff that I have to work on today. So this is lovely.
Oh, well, thank you. I received that. What an acknowledgement. Thank you so much. And it goes both ways. I have so much respect for you and your journey and your courage. And, you know, what I usually do is I just kind of hand it over for you to introduce yourself, because I think you'll do a much better job than I can. And I just say, you know, it's like whatever comes to you in terms of what you want to share about who you are, where you live, like, you know, a little bit of your background, like whatever you want to share in this moment, so that the audience kind of gets to know you more before we dive in to like deeper stuff.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for asking that question. So I'm Cristina, and I am the founder and owner of a new brand called EMMOTIV. And that's just kind of the end point of my journey in life, but that's what I'm doing at this moment. And one of the reasons I think I'm obviously on this live and just to share my journey with other people, because I think when you start a new company, there's a lot of challenges involved. And to your point, Tasca, knowing you're not alone is like one of the most important things that can really help. So I'm just so happy to kind of share my own experience. And it's always been so helpful to hear other people's experiences. And my story is that I'm actually originally from Romania. I came to the United States in 1993. I moved to the Detroit area. And a lot of my childhood experiences have really shaped kind of where I ended up in life. I was actually telling Tasca recently how when I was a kid, and I was probably 8 or 9, and the communist regime toppled in Romania, and before that, free enterprise was not a thing, obviously, under communist dictatorship. But once that started to crumble, people started to start their own businesses, and that's actually the first time I was exposed to somebody owning their own business, and it kind of stayed with me over like the last 30 plus years, and now that I'm 40, I decided, why not go for it myself. But it's funny how like little things that you experience when you're young, you kind of start to maybe suppress them, or they start to hide under all of the other experience that are rushing you through life. And if you take a moment to kind of just think about what was it that I was really excited about a long time ago, sometimes you find little nuggets that are interesting in there. And that's, for me, that's the first time I saw somebody kind of owning a business. It was actually a woman who had a little shop, kind of a little hole in the wall, and I to be honest, I don't even remember what she sold, but that was the first time I saw somebody owning their own business, and it just was so inspiring. And again, it stayed through me over the last X amount of years through my career. And I decided last year to take the leap into entrepreneurship after spending, oh boy, over 15 years in kind of the corporate world. So that's how I kind of landed here. And I guess I'll say that from a starting my own business perspective, I'm a very risk averse person. So I'm somewhat proof that even if you're risk averse, you can still do what you love and take a risk. Even if it's like on a smaller scale or more calculated, it's very possible if you have the passion to do it.
Yes, yes. So, oh my gosh, so much that I want to dive into with just this introduction. And I think I really want to start with, and like, look, if there's anywhere you don't want to go, we don't have to go there. So don't hesitate to be like, yeah, let's talk about something else. But obviously, being a first gen here, and or an immigrant, right? I guess is not even first gen, right? And that transition for you at a very, what should I say, like vulnerable age. I'm just wondering, like, what kind of tools did you have in your toolbox for making that's a huge transition, right? Like, and talking about, right, we're talking about emotions, and like, so yeah. Was it just like, buck up, we don't worry about how we're feeling, if we're feeling insecure, if we're feeling lonely, if we're feeling like a longing for what we've always known, or did you have a lot of tools to help you process those big cultural changes?
Wow, that's a really great question. Of course, coming from you, like you really, yeah. So I did not have the right tools. That's the short answer, is that when I moved here, it was just being kind of thrown into a completely new environment. I had absolutely no knowledge or understanding of the culture here. Mm-hmm. I didn't speak the language. For the first few years that I was in the States, I honestly didn't even know what was going on around me, because I just didn't know the language. Like, that's the first barrier. And then there were cultural barriers. And I started to learn English from like albums, which was probably not the best. Like, just like 90s alternative. Like, I was like literally reading the lyrics on the CD covers and like looking up the words. And so that was I really didn't have, to be honest. I didn't have the right tools. And I think at that young age, and I was 11 when I moved here, your body, like, as a human being, you kind of start to cope, and you come up with solutions to help you get through the moment. And for me, that often meant just kind of suppressing how I felt, because it wasn't, I didn't have the right language or tools to even express how I felt. B, I didn't really understand the emotions that I was experiencing, and it was just easier for me to suppress them. But however, that is not obviously the right way to do things. And I think even with young people, like exposing them to the right tools and language to really process and express and embrace and understand their emotions is like just so important, because it just sets you up for a easier life and a better way to really process what's happening around you and take the right actions for you. But for me, I didn't really have that. And you know, it's, you know, you can't look back, like it is what it is, right? Like it happened. But as I grew older and I went, progressed through my career and I progressed through life, I started to really appreciate emotions. And part of this was a little bit just rebellious, because I was working in environments, especially corporate environments, that very much discouraged expressing emotion, to be honest. I mean, that's unfortunate, and I think it's probably changed a little bit. Maybe, you know, I think there's general like progress over time, even in the last 10 years. But it's, you know, we're not where we need to be. And yeah, I was working in environments where I felt, you know, oppressed for a number of reasons, language, my gender, all of the things. I worked in very male dominated fields as well, which also didn't help. But I, at first, you know, I thought maybe there's something wrong with me, and maybe I shouldn't be expressing, or I shouldn't be feeling these things. And actually, no, that's not right. Like, having emotions and reactions is actually like your body's way of telling you there's something wrong. And listening to those emotions is one of the most powerful things that we can do to actually understand like what it is that's bothering us and make a change. And but it took me like, I don't know, 10 years to get there. So hopefully for other people it's a little faster if they have the right tools. But a lot of it was just me coming to this realization just from my own experiences, and saying, this is an orthodoxy that we need to break. The orthodoxy that, you know, it's having emotions makes you weak. Sharing your emotions makes you weak. Those, we need to break those orthodoxies, because they are really, unfortunately impacting how we operate as a society, and how we, you know, how people feel at work. And, you know, we hear all these things about people not feeling, sort of in their element at work. Well, everybody has a different personality. So if the work environment isn't kind of embracing, or at least allowing you to be who you are, like how are you supposed to operate for 8-10 hours a day? So it's like common sense, but I think that it doesn't get really discussed enough with the right people to make those changes. But anyway, long story short, I eventually personally started seeking out environments and companies and people who were more accepting of this idea of embracing emotion. And when I created EMMOTIV, the brand that I just launched, that's at the core of this brand. And honestly, I mean, it's a fragrance brand for anyone listening, but it could be, it's more than that. It's really about this idea of celebrating human emotion. It's a beautiful part of who we are as people. And we shouldn't just suppress it. We have one life, and we should, you know, if we have beautiful emotions, we should look for ways to amplify and enhance them. And if we have challenging emotions, we should listen to those emotions and understand, so we can figure out why we're feeling that way and what kind of changes we can make in our lives to kind of bridge that gap.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you're just dropping so many nuggets, right? And there's so much like underneath there, right? Because like what I'm hearing in your thread, right, is like kind of growing up and not necessarily having the tools, and having probably pretty strong emotions at that time, and not even being able to speak the language. I didn't even realize that. I thought maybe you had learned English before you came. So that's like a whole nother barrier, and along with the cultural barrier. And so how do you even communicate and like engage? And then you enter corporate America. That was your path, which I'd love to hear, you know, where your passion was in that, you know. And then so now you're in environments, right, which are doubling down on the like, no,
I'm always like making up for lost time. I'm like, for the first half of my career, I couldn't talk about emotions, so now I'm changing it entirely. All I'm going to talk about is emotions.
Oh, I love it. Well, yeah, you know what? And it's funny because, you know, in the career coaching that I do, right, like one of the things that I talk about is, it's funny, oh my God, I was just thinking about my mom, and I'll tell you why, she just joined, is I say to people, well, what's the most important thing in your next move? Like, what is it you really, really need, right? Because we want a lot of things and we need a lot of things, but we gotta really, like, when we get some clarity, I'm like, I just don't want to work somewhere. I want to work for a boss, you know, that treats me like I'm, like, you know, like I want to be treated like, for example, right? Or I want to be in a space, like you said, where emotions are okay, because I'm an emotional being and I'm so sick of suppressing it, right? So I love that you bring that up, because you're acknowledging like this is a human need, and clearly one that was really important to you, and one that you wanted in the work environment. And then you're like, how do I go create that? How do I find those environments? And now you get to have every emotion on the spectrum in your workday, because
and I do. As a new business owner, trust me, it's all over the map.
Girl, look, that's a whole nother talk, because
yes, exactly. That's a totally another talk about it.
Yeah, and like, let me just suffice it to say that there was a woman that was giving a talk that I listened to, and she was like, if you're an entrepreneur and you're not crying like at least once a week, something's wrong. You're not doing it right. I was like, what? Once a week? How about like once a day?
Totally. Oh my gosh, that's so funny and so true.
Yeah. And, you know, so by the way, hello, Deshana, and my mom, Wendy, is here. And the reason why I thought about my mom is because she has spent 35 years working in one place, and is an interpreter for the deaf. So she speaks ASL, American Sign Language. And, you know, just hearing stories of right, like not feeling included, or like, right, like not being able to communicate, and how isolating that can be, and how, you know, and how heavy that can feel. And that's why it was funny, I was thinking about her and then she joined. And that, but also, right, emotion is a language, right? It is an expression.
Yes.
And there are certain emotions that are accepted in workplaces, and certain that are not, and some that are accepted by one gender and not in other genders. So you were going to say something, so I'm sorry.
You hit the nail on, you hit the nail on the head. I couldn't agree more. Yes. Yeah. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and you know, we talk about some of the progress here, right? But like, we're talking about, you know, the Industrial Revolution, and like the desire for like humans to be like machines, right? And we're not in that era anymore, like, except we're still acting like we're in that era.
That's such a good point. Yeah.
You know, and I think that I think there's this huge opportunity to normalize and say, yes, like, we cannot freaking hang up our emotion on the freaking door before we walk into work. We don't operate that way, but that's how we've been asked and dictated and rewarded to operate. Come in with a, you know?
Right. Don't show anything, just neutral. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, so I'd love to hear a little bit more about your journey with coming to this conclusion that you want to take a leap of faith and become an entrepreneur and leave, you know, the quote unquote, you know, security, which is a fallacy anyway, right? It's everything is always uncertain. We have no control over our employment status at any given time. But you know, and one of the reasons why I want to talk to you about this is because I think there's a lot of people in this reevaluation, right? Whether you're talking about Great Resignation, Great Reset, whether you're talking about, you know, forced layoffs and all the things that it's real hard for people, and I see it in my clients, right, to say, well, what next, or what else, or what now, and what else am I good at, and what is my heart beating towards? Because so much of that gets very buried under the survival that we've been in these work environments that can be abusive and even traumatic.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I will say that for me, I mean, I started this company, and I decided to start this company about a year ago. Actually, it was in January, but essentially about a year ago. But the mental gymnastics and sort of emotional preparation, I think, had been going on for many years before that, because it's something that I had been thinking about and wanting to do, was probably too scared to start, or didn't think I had enough skills. I mean, everybody has a different risk tolerance, as I mentioned. Mine is very low. So, but I think that but I share that because I think it's totally okay and normal to have periods in your career when you are maybe, transition is not the right word necessarily for it, but you're, you're doing something, maybe you love what you're doing. I actually really loved my previous job. And it was the first job that I had that I felt really connected with on a whole different level. But I sought out that type of opportunity. So I think like you take steps in your career to get closer to where you want to be. It's not an overnight transformation by any means. And then, you might reach a stage where you feel ready, whatever ready means for you, right? It means different things to different people. But I think the biggest, and I don't know if this is like advice, I think everyone's situation is so different, but maybe another orthodoxy to break, I suppose, is that you have to have it kind of like all figured out in the beginning. And that is not the case. Like you will probably never feel like you have it fully figured out. So part of it is just taking the leap of faith and trusting yourself and trusting that yes, you will encounter challenges, but you have the right tools or you know what to do to fix them or to figure out a solution. And just having that alone is enough to start to experiment with something new if that's what your kind of heart is calling you to do. Because I do think that there's a lot of and also this is coming from the corporate world, is the training. We're kind of trained. We have to have the perfect answer up front, everything, kind of like the perfect deck, so to speak. And, it doesn't matter if it's on paper, but it's not happening in real life. It doesn't matter. It's better to do a little bit and try to experiment and test and see what works for you, even if you don't have it all figured out, then try to kind of get it into a spick and span, perfect mint condition. And then by the time you've done that, the environment has changed and it's, you have to change it again. So I think it's just being kind of what helped me take the leap, at least being risk averse, is putting aside this tendency that I had to everything has to be perfect and figured out in the beginning, because then you're kind of like never going to get there. And I'm not saying it's easy to do that if you're have like perfectionist tendencies, or you're failed, have fear of failure or things like that. It is a little harder, but it's actually great training to just let go of that and just explore something new. And so that's kind of how I would say I got myself to this point, because I could have easily just stayed in an gainfully employed opportunity, and but I decided to take the risk, and it's you'll know if you're ready, basically.
Cheers to that. Oh my gosh. You just said so much in there that I just want to like pause and reflect on. And the first is like, you're never going to have it all figured out, and I think that sentiment is so important to acknowledge in a number of arenas, right? Whether it's choosing to follow your heart and what you know to be your truth and that you're ready for it, or whether it's even in the journey of figuring out what's next. It's like you don't have to see you don't have to know the roadmap. As I actually talk about this in my blog this month, which is like, all you have to know is the immediate next thing, and the rest will unfold. So you just have to keep trusting and trusting and trusting that each step. And even, it's funny, like I'm going to out my mom here, she's retiring in February, right? Like, years and decades in the workforce. And she's like, what's going to happen? I'm like, I don't know, Mom, just like wait for it. Don't try to figure it out. Right. Cause like who freaking knows how you're going to feel? And the same thing with clients, that leave their jobs and they want to figure it all out the minute they step out of something. And it's like just take it one step at a time. Yeah. One step at a time.
I think that's the best way to, in many ways, it's a great life advice too. You can plan out your life to a T, and if you do, you're just going to be disappointed because it's going to turn out differently anyway. So it's better to just be surprised in many ways.
Well, and that's, it kind of goes against, right, the patriarchal model that we all live under, right? Which is like timeline, structure, right. Know what you're doing before you do it. And what I hear you talk about really is a test and learn. Go experiment, go do the thing, don't worry about knowing, the 10 steps to the destination. Just have the vision and put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, totally. And I think that, I guess there's probably people out there for whom it really helps to have a structured plan.
Right.
And that's wonderful, but it's not, I feel like it's the only option that's provided. And it's more about understanding what works for you and your own personality. And things like that may not work for everyone. And I guess don't feel discouraged if that's not you, because everyone's different. And I think it goes back to us trying to impose a specific structure or way of being onto everyone when we're all completely different people. And it's better to just be in tune with who you are and do what you think is right for you, rather than following someone else's advice on planning and all of that.
100%. And I think too, right, I think you said it, right? Like, we're kind of only shown one way. And
Right.
I think part of the discomfort of transformation is giving yourself permission and experimenting with other ways, because sometimes we don't even know what our way is, because we keep doing it the way that our family wants it to be done, or our workplace wants it to be done, or our friend group wants it to be done, and that can be really uncomfortable to say, all right, I'm gonna try to I don't want, decondition, whatever word you want to use, unlearn, right? And see what really serves me and what serves my way of doing things. And, it makes me want to circle back around to the concept of emotions, right? Because who wants to feel the feelings,
Right.
And clearly emotion is a big part of the work that I do.
Right.
And even my clients are just like, they want to apologize, or they want to feel bad about like the emotions that they're feeling. And it's like, oh, no, this is perfect, actually, because now we know where the energy is and like what needs to be shifted. So I love to hear your thoughts on, like, I don't know, like, do you remember when you started giving yourself permission to really feel the feelings and look at them and explore what was there for you?
I think, yes, it was unfortunately all related to breaking points. So it was just things that triggered a growing pressure of emotions. And when those things happen, I would let it all out. And, that's what happens when you suppress emotions for a long time. They just like kind of start to burst. But I think a lot of it was specific instances, and then once I would let my emotions out and express how I feel, I would just feel so liberated and relieved. And okay, maybe, oh no, did I say something to offend? Maybe I said something to offend somebody. You know what? I mean, we're human beings, right? And I think those are the times when I realized, okay, I need to figure out a way to just like make this part of how I live my life and be okay expressing how I feel. And then I think also when I had children, that also changed a little bit, because now I had a whole different view on life and responsibility. I was also very tired. And I think generally when you're tired and sleep deprived, you have low barrier to holding in your emotions. So it's just like by circumstance of life, I started to just kind of started expressing how I felt and being a little bit more bold with how I communicated my emotions. And it was just like a process, though. It's not like an overnight thing, but there were times when, like I said, it was just bubbling up. And ideally you don't even have to get to that point, because you kind of just like make expressing emotions part of your ritual and routine, and how you kind of go about your day. And then you don't have to get to those points. Yeah. I'm sure I'm not the only one
oh my
who
gosh.
has had that experience.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely not, and I think that a lot of this also goes to kind of mental health conversations that are out there, right? Which is like that we don't even do maintenance. There's times where let's just say I have like a potential client, and they reach out and they're at this point, right? There's like this pressure and there's this thing and they're like, oh my gosh, I need support and da 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 da. And then sometimes what can happen is that pressure valve kind of got released and all of a sudden they're like, no, I'm good, actually, I'm good.
Right.
I don't need to pursue this right now. And like inside I'm like dying because I'm like, but the thing wasn't addressed, right? But the pressure got relieved, but we actually didn't, that, the choice is not to do that work right now, right? And my fear is that what happens is that pattern will repeat because we're not addressing it and saying what was the trigger, what, like how, or even understanding like how am I feeling? I don't even know the words, to use or what have you. So unfortunately, it often happens in, like you said, in those like the pressure just builds and then it's like an explosion. But it's often the process.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's one of the messages that I want to share through Emotive too, is just paying attention or taking the time. I think it's actually hard in our life today to even just pause for a moment and just observe how we're feeling. I mean, it's just as simple as that. How am I feeling and why am I feeling this way? And I'm not trying to say we should be overthinking or anything. It's more just about just taking time to just observe. There's no judgment, but just observe. And if you see that then a certain emotion keeps popping up, there's probably a reason for that. But if you don't give it time, don't give yourself time to even acknowledge that it's there, how are you going to help yourself, right? Figure out how to get past it. And so I think a lot of it is just taking our time and being a little patient with ourselves and making that a priority rather than just kind of like rushing through life, which is obviously so easy to do in today's age. And, with social media and everything, it's just easy to have things that you go to kind of turn everything off. But if you have that tendency, it's almost like a sign that you shouldn't be doing that, and just take the time to observe how you're feeling in the moment. And so that's the biggest, I think, message that I want to share with Emotive, is just to embrace your emotions, whether positive or negative, because it can help you more than you realize just to do that alone.
Yeah, I love that message. And I just want to also build, right? Well, first of all, I even wonder, like, should we be judging our emotions, right? Like, can we just let them be what they are?
Right.
And then say, like, do I want more of this? Do I not want more of this? Right.
Exactly.
And even the good emotions, the ones that we want to be feeling more of, we often don't give ourselves the time and space to actually enjoy it. We just want to move right through it.
Such a good, yes. So, I mean, that's such a great observation.
It's like, yeah, and then we're doing ourselves a disservice because we spend all the time ruminating on the things that we don't want to feel, and meanwhile, the things that we want to feel, we're afraid to feel them for too long. That's a whole nother.
Oh yeah, because it's a self-defense mechanism. I can't be, I can't feel joy because, inevitably something bad will happen. Like that's not,
yeah,
that's a hard thing to break out of for sure.
Yeah. So I'm really curious, and what Wendy here was just to mention, she knew each time it was time for her to move on. Like, it sounds like she has a real gut. Like you have a sense, you have a knowing. And I think people often ignore that or don't honor that as data.
Right. Right. Well, that's such a great point, because I will say that another part of this orthodoxy around emotions is also our gut feelings. And gut feelings are data. They just don't come in form of graphs and tables. They're actually more powerful because they're based on your own body's memory of experiences, and they get processed in a totally different part of the brain. But actually listening to your gut, which is kind of where emotions, you start to really feel them, is just such a powerful data point. And so again, it goes back to what you're taught versus what's actually like helpful as a human being.
Especially if your experience has been to stuff the gut. and to, right, and it's not valid if you're not validated, or you're invalidated, I should say,
Right.
by others. So I'm curious because I love, you know, what you're doing with Emotive and why you launched it, and it's so deep, right? It's like it's such a beautiful kind of mission. And so I'm curious, like, what's your wildest dreams as it relates to like Emotive and where you want it to go? And like, I know it's like day one, right? But I'm just wondering if there's other elements of this, that, you know, that we don't really know about, because I have the products here. And I'm wearing, by the way, I am wearing Joy Rush right now
Oh,
because I think this is the one that you said you're highlighting this week.
yeah. Oh my gosh, I am too.
Oh, yay!
I was
But
like, this is the perfect fragrance to wear for this IG live.
Oh, yay! Oh,
Yeah.
I chose
Well,
wisely.
thank you. I'm so glad that you love them. That means so much to me. Basically, Emotive, just for everyone out there, Emotive is about, like I said earlier, celebrating and amplifying the beauty of human emotion. And it's about doing that through the art of scent. And so, another orthodoxy to break is that fragrance is a superficial thing that we do to impress others and go out to the club, which, by the way, if you're doing that, more power to you. I'm not saying that you can't do that. But fragrance is so much deeper and more beautiful than only that superficial aspect. And that's why I chose fragrance to really bring to life emotion, because our sense of smell is the only sense that has a direct link to areas of the brain that control emotion, the limbic system, which processes emotion memory. It has a direct link. It's a primordial part of the brain. And so when we smell something, we have a visceral reaction to it for that reason. Whereas when we experience things with our other senses, it goes through it gets processed through our thinking brain, which is a different part of the brain. So it's more rational. Whereas scent is more intuitive and it's very internal in the way that we experience it. And so I thought fragrance was such a beautiful conduit for really exploring this idea of connecting with our emotions because of that link. And so each fragrance in the Emotive collection is built around a specific emotional space, like Joy Rush that you just shared. And the way that the fragrances work is that they use notes and ingredients that have research that shows they help evoke specific emotions. So in the case of Joy, there are specific ingredients like bergamot and patchouli and others that have been studied to inspire feelings of joy. And I'm really simplifying it here for the purpose of the IG Live. You can learn much more on the website. But essentially, the fragrances are built around these ingredients to help evoke and amplify those emotions. But they're not like traditional aromatherapy, in that they are very layered and beautiful. And there's an artistic element to how they're constructed. So they do wear like perfume, because perfume to me is another passion that we it's like a whole nother conversation. But I think that it's just such a beautiful format to me, it's more like art. It's funny because it's in the beauty category, but it's really an artistic expression. Like perfumers are like painters and they create these beautiful compositions. And in this case, they're creating these beautiful artistic compositions and infusing in there these mood enhancing notes. So it's kind of combining the best of both worlds, the art of perfumery plus the mood elevating benefits of aromatherapy kind of in one. And so right now there's 4 fragrances in the collection built around the emotions of joy, calm, comfort, love. And then there will be more coming down the line, kind of really exploring all of our beautiful emotions. But Joy Rush, which you highlighted, I'm actually doing a giveaway of Joy Rush fragrance this week because each week I've been highlighting a different fragrance. So for anyone listening, if you go to Emotive's Instagram page, all you have to do to enter the giveaway is to like Monday's post, which is yesterday's post. and just drop a comment, and I will be announcing a winner tomorrow. But basically I chose joy for the giveaway because I was thinking it'd be kind of fun for people to have one for themselves and to give one to someone who brings joy in their life or who needs a little bit of joy. So I just thought that was like a nice message. Especially, it's funny, it's like, I'll just say this about fragrance, like there's, for anyone following fragrance out there, I mean, there's like a lot of you know, it's what we typically associate with is like overly like produced commercials and like, you know, some dude on a horse in the water, like, or like these other, you know, companies are spending like, I don't know, probably like hundreds of thousands of dollars on ad campaigns that just show, I mean, I think they're gorgeously done, but it's not, that's not what fragrance have to be. And I think that often turns people away from fragrance, people who otherwise could really benefit from the mood elevating aspect of fragrance, because they see it as a more of a overly commercialized or kind of more one-sided format. And it's not, it doesn't have to be that. So with Emotive, I want it to be more intimate and personal. It's really about wearing fragrance for yourself and discovering that beautiful link between emotion and scent. I'll stop. I mean, I could talk about this forever.
Oh no,
so
I love it.
I won't, I promise. But yeah, for anyone listening, that's what Emotive is all about, and it's kind of a long term. I think there's potential to explore. I mean, to me, you can really use all of your senses to tap into your emotion. I chose to start with the sense of smell, like I said, because of that really strong link. But to me, there's so many other ways to really celebrate emotion. One of those is art. So I think doing partnerships with artists and bringing to life these emotions through artwork is another, you know, I can see a lot of ways for the brand to grow that is really built around this core concept of celebrating emotion. But fragrance to me is a personal passion, and I decided to start here.
Oh my God, I thank you for sharing that peek under the tent about like how you're viewing this and where the brand could go and will go in the future and explode. And I love that my two girls, Rock My World, who joined, said, you know, she was loving your story and she was it was resonating with her. And by all means, you know, for those watching, if you have any questions for Cristina, like that's what this is for. Like, you know, you use your voice here. If you so choose. And, you know, I think that, first of all, let's call Brené Brown, shall we? I mean, she's got Atlas of the Heart. It's all about defining 86 emotions, because we are so crap at describing them, and often we use like a higher emotion, but actually there's something else.
Yes, having the right language, right?
Yes.
That's number one.
Yeah. Okay. So let's send a box to Brené Brown. I feel like there's a huge opportunity of, you know, working together.
Love it. Yes.
But yeah, like I think that, well, first of all, it's a brave thing to do, to step out and to say, there's this thing I want to do for the world. So just kudos to you for that. And secondly, you know, emotions are, like, this is such a difficult topic for people, and you're just like picking the hardest freaking thing. You're like, look, feel your feelings, and
well,
it'll work
started
out.
with the easy ones, Tasca. That's why this is like the appetizer.
Yes. And by the way, like I'm just gonna show people because you know, we have Calm Soul, and I love the packaging. It's just so simple and beautiful.
The packaging was designed by a super talented designer. I will send her Instagram handle, Maria Troconis. She actually is in California. She's originally from Venezuela. Just a beautiful human being, a super talented designer, and that's who designed all the graphics and the brand identity that you see on the packaging.
Oh yeah, it's so beautiful, and I love the bottle. You know, and you know, I can't help but think about this is self-care, right? And this idea that like perfume and aromatics are for us. You know, I remember I had a friend who was like, "Oh no, I spray it before I go to bed." She's like, "It's for me," and I was like, "Oh, that is just
people
so,
yeah.
I never thought about it that way." And now, and I have a whole bunch of like essential oils, you know, and scents is like, this scent is not my, I always think it's like not my strongest sense, smell. And so I feel like I'm always like pumping a ton of like essential oils in my diffusers because I'm like, I can't smell it. It's strange, but
Yeah.
I've learned, but I'm also training myself. I'm also
Right,
training
right.
myself
Well,
to
it
pay
is a train.
attention.
Yes, you can totally train your sense of smell. It's so interesting that you mentioned that because a lot of people who lost their sense of smell during COVID, which is I forgot the
Oh,
name. There's a technical name for that.
yes.
They there's people who specialize in helping them regain their sense of smell, and they
Mm.
actually do it through perfume because
Oh.
it's a little bit more concentrated. And
Mm.
again, I don't how it works in the mechanics of how it works is like no one fully understands, but it
Mhm.
actually helps them regain their sense of smell faster
Wow.
by smelling different fragrances and different accords, and they go all the way down to the single ingredient level, and it just helps them recreate a memory of the smell. Because it's so funny, smell
Mm.
is one of those senses where we're probably most likely to take for granted until we lose it. And I don't want to mess up this stat because I might have the wrong data, but it's something like, again, don't quote me on this, like 70-ish% of our experience even eating food is actually coming from our sense of smell, not our taste. So when people
Right.
lose their sense of smell, they also can't enjoy food anymore, foods that they loved. It's like so crazy how they're all interconnected. But yeah,
Yeah.
scent is such a powerful but underappreciated in many ways sense. And so that's what I hope that with Emotive people can take the time to really appreciate that beautiful connection between emotion and scent.
Oh, yes. I love that. And it's so true. And I know both of my parents got COVID and they both lost scent for like a year. It was a very long time. And it was
Yeah.
really tough for them to eat and, and enjoy it. And actually, we have a question here about your product. My two girls rock my world wants to smell them all. And she's wondering if they have a lot of pure oil in them.
Great question. So they are a it varies a little bit by fragrance, but all of the fragrances are a combination of botanical extracts, primarily essential oils, and safe synthetics. So if you go to the website and you go to each fragrance, unlike pretty much all other fragrance companies, we actually list all of the ingredients in the fragrances so you can see exactly what's in each fragrance. If you have some people have a sensitivity to certain essential oils, then you can look for that and see if it's in there or not. But yeah, that's another thing with Emotive is that I wanted to offer fragrance transparency because it's like really
Mm.
demystifying this world of perfume and being just transparent with people. So yeah, so you can see the exact ingredients, and they are categorized between plant and synthetic. If hopefully that's helpful because it varies by fragrance.
I love
But
the
it's
transparency notion. Tell me what the heck I'm putting on my body. I love it. And she can smell them all because you're doing like a
there's
trial
a
size of all of
Yeah,
them
we
right
do
now,
have a
right?
discovery set. So the discovery set is on the website. It's $25. You can experience all 4 scents, and it actually comes with a $15 credit that you can use towards the purchase of the full size. So, but it's really important with fragrance, like you have to really experience it. Obviously, as we all know. So yes, I encourage you to check out the discovery set. Thank you for bringing that up, Tasca. But yeah, transparency. So fragrance in the US, there is no legal requirement to list your fragrance ingredients. And as consumers over the last, I would say 5-ish years, have started getting a lot more interested in understanding what's in their products that they put on their skin, there's been a lot of transparency in other categories in beauty. And again, fragrance is part of beauty because we put it on our skin from an industry standpoint, but not in fragrance. So in fragrance, typically you just see the word fragrance. So you see water and fragrance. And what we do at Emotive, and this is a partnership with all the perfumers, obviously, who created these fragrances, we disclose all of the ingredients because the backlash against the fragrance industry has been, well, what are you putting in it? Like, what's in it? Why can't I see what's in it? And they often say, well, it's proprietary, we can't share. But what it doesn't have to be that way. And that's what I wanted to highlight with Emotive, is that it doesn't have to be that way. People do want to know what they're putting on their skin. And again, if someone has a specific sensitivity, they should know about it, because not, you know, everyone's different. So that's why you can check out all of the ingredients on the website.
Oh my gosh. I'm just so thrilled that we're having this conversation. I'm learning more about what you're passionate about and what you're putting your heart into. And, you know, you were so generous. I ordered a bottle. It's like, I wanted to support you. And then you sent me the whole freaking line. And like, that was just so insanely generous. And I was also so excited because I wanted to smell everything. I was like, oh my God. So, you know, so thank you for that. And,
Thank you for being so supportive. I mean, it's like, I think when you start a new business, to have friends like you and women like you, just being in your network is just so incredibly wonderful. And I just feel so lucky. So thank you.
Well, you're so welcome. And I think that people who aren't in the space of entrepreneurship or trying to build something on their own, I think it can be really hard for them to understand what support really looks like, that feels good, that feels like uplifting to carry you through, because you know, every day is like a new challenge, it's a new opportunity, but like it's just hard. And I think a lot of people are jumping into building their own thing right now in the world for admirative reasons, and I think it's amazing. And I don't know, you know, it's funny because I think a lot about, why am I passionate about, I love bringing folks on, and I end up bringing a lot of folks on there that are entrepreneurs, but I think it's not about, I feel like everybody should be an entrepreneur. That's not my stance. My stance is I want everybody to pursue what they love and pursue their passion and live their authentic truth. And I feel like that often gets expressed by people shifting careers or by, you know, in that realm. And because it just, I think it helps us unleash all our potential. But it's not the easy road. As hard as corporate is, and as hard as like organizations are, like entrepreneurship, it's difficult in different ways.
Yes,
right?
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. So, you know, I think, and you're just reflecting on the conversation, because I know we're coming to the top of the hour, and I want to respect your time. Is that it's really sticking with me, this idea of what was so important in your life, what was, you know, kind of your challenge. Now you created something to help other people open the door into a way that I think is like very approachable. Like, how do we help people to say, it's okay to feel your feelings. It's okay to ugly cry. It's okay to be so fucking joyful that you just want to take everybody with you, you know?
Right.
This is being human.
That's
you
right.
know?
Yeah. And you only have one life. I mean, the thing that kind of more recently, my guiding light, or I guess point for making decisions is, what do I want to remember when I'm 80? Okay. Like, I'm 80 years old or whatever. Let's say I'm 90. I don't know. I'm very optimistic.
Yes, 108.
Whatever
Come on,
it
let's
is.
go
But
there.
what do you want to remember? Because if you think through that lens, I think your decisions are going to get much easier, because you get out of the hole that you're in now and that moment, and you think long term. What makes my heart sing? What do I feel happy about? What do I want to do every day? And that's what you want to remember when you're 80. You want to remember maybe taking the risk, even if it didn't work out. It's better to take the risk if that's what you want to do. You're less likely to regret that than you are if you just don't take the risk at all.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful message, and it makes me think of, oh gosh, I don't know what book, but you know, they did a study, right, on regret, and it's actually that people don't regret what they did do in life; they actually regret what they didn't do.
Yeah.
And this was like people like later in their life, right? And I just want to share, because I don't want to pass this beautiful comment by, which is that love this pulling up of each other and of other women. I needed to hear all this. Thank you both. Truly inspiring and hopeful. And Brittany just joined, and Imagine Belly, thank you for joining. So good to see you, Jenny, as well. Some of my dear friends, and like, you know, and I think these ladies too have stepped out. They're, you know, they're living their best life, doing amazing things in the world. And I think that, first of all, you know, if there's any way that I can support you in what you're building, don't hesitate. I love having you on, and I love, I think, you know, like I was saying before, like, you know, I love supporting people who are pursuing their dreams, and and it often comes in the form of, you know, their entrepreneurial journeys. So
Well,
I'm just
thank
so
you so
glad.
much, Tasca. I mean, it's what you've built is incredible. The fact that you're helping other people is that must be so satisfying, and you should feel so incredibly proud. I mean, this is just I'm in awe of everything that you've built in your over in your career, and also recently. I mean, it's anyone who has the chance of working with you is very lucky. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, well, thank you. That means so much. And, you know, again, for folks who are just joining, look, this is EMMOTIV brand. It's beautiful fragrance that's really intended to help you honor and cherish the emotions that we have as humans, if I'm recapping this correctly.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
And right now you have a discovery set that's available online where you can try all four of this, the fragrances available, and get a $15 credit towards the purchase of a full size bottle. So yeah, I wish you the best of luck, you guys. These are going to be great stocking stuffers. So
oh yeah, good holiday gifts for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And yes, here, My Two Girls Rock is saying there's enough abundance for us all, so why not support each other? Girl, talk about it. Yes, let's lift each other up, especially this time of year that can be tough for a lot of people. So kudos to you, your bravery, and I have no doubt that you will accomplish whatever it is you set out to do. You have such a pure intent here that there's just no doubt that it's going to fly.
Thank you. That means so much, Tasca. You have no idea. Thank you. And thank you so much for having me on. This was such a lovely conversation, and like definitely the highlight of my week. Just thank you.
Oh, likewise. All right. Well, we're going to be in touch. And, you know, Brene Brown, Oprah's favorite things, we're coming for you with EMMOTIV. Well, let's just put that in the portal out there.
100%.
All right. Thanks for everyone who's joining now and after the fact. Your presence is a present. So thank you. And
thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, we'll see you next time. Ciao for now.